This Mother's Day, on Real America's Voice, we honor the women who lead with conviction and courage. From Congresswoman Paulina to Sam Sorbo, to Palm Beach's own Suebelle Robbins, their stories inspire us all. To all the mothers, today we honor you and we thank you for making America great. The American Matriarch, with your host, Beau Davidson, starts right now.
Welcome to this very special presentation on Mother's Day right here at Real America's Voice. I'm your host, Beau Davidson. Today is a day that we celebrate mothers, motherhood, and maternal bonds, and the contributions mothers have made to our society. I'd like to start off by giving you a little bit of history of Mother's Day. During the 19th century, women's peace groups would meet, especially those mothers who had sons who fought on both sides of the Civil War. In 1868, Anne Jarvis organized a committee to establish a Mother's Friendship Day to reunite families that had been divided during the Civil War. Jarvis had been instrumental in organizing Mother's Day work clubs to improve sanitation for both Union and Confederate camps during typhoid outbreaks. She wanted to expand this into an annual event for mothers, but she died in 1905. Her daughter, Anna Jarvis, would continue on her mother's efforts. And there were limited observances in the 1870s and 1880s, but never on a national level. On May 13, 1877, an observance was made in honor of Juliet Calhoun Blakely, who stepped up to complete her minister's sermon due to the man being so distraught over his son being forced to the point of drunkenness by an anti-temperance group. Blakely's sons were so moved at their mother's unselfish act that they came back to Albion to honor her every single year, which the Methodist Episcopalian Church of Albion set aside the second Sunday in May each year to recognize the contributions of mothers. At the University of Notre Dame, alum Frank Herring declared that throughout history, great men of the world have given their credit for their achievements to their mothers. He went on to be a vocal advocate for a National Mother's Day for an entire decade. Now, our present-day celebration of Mother's Day, however, comes from Anna Jarvis's celebration of her mother, Anne, that I mentioned earlier. She held a small service on May 12, 1907, in the Andrews Methodist Episcopal Church in Grafton, West Virginia, where Ann Jarvis had taught Sunday school. Jarvis then campaigned to make it a national holiday, and West Virginia, unsurprisingly, was the first to officially recognize the day, with other states following suit. On May 10, 1913, the House of Representatives passed a resolution calling on all federal officials to wear a white carnation following the following day in observance of Mother's Day. On May 8, 1914, Congress passed a law designating the second Sunday in May as Mother's Day and requesting a proclamation. Well, on the very next day, President Woodrow Wilson made that very proclamation. Now, in 1913, Anna Jarvis trademarked the phrases second Sunday in May and Mother's Day. She specifically noted that the spelling should be of a singular possessive, meaning M-O-T-H-E-R''S, for each family to honor their own mother, not a plural possessive to commemorate all the mothers collectively. This spelling was also used by President Wilson in his proclamation. And I actually find that interesting, because most people probably think today is a day to celebrate all mothers at once. And sure, in some ways, it has become that. But Anna Jarvis's intention was that we each honor our own mother individually to give her her due, as opposed to lumping everyone into one group. Mother's Day is the third largest holiday for sending cards, as an estimated 50% of households across the country do this. The day's traditions include church going, which many of you moms may be doing today with your children. Another tradition that's associated with the day is the carnation, and many religious services distribute carnations on Sunday, with some even giving pink carnations if your mother is alive and white if she has passed. Anna Jarvis herself was very much against the commercialization of the holiday, specifically against greeting cards, which she saw was a lazy alternative to a handwritten note. She was even arrested in 1948 for protesting the commercialization of the day. She may have lamented it, but it has now become the most popular day in America to dine at a restaurant. And I do tend to agree that Miss Jarvis may have had a point, that a card, although thoughtful, can elude the personal touch of a handwritten letter. And for those of you who do send cards, I would highly recommend writing a personal note on the inside cover of that card, just to let your mom know that she means more to you than just the pre-written words of a store-bought card, as sweet as those can be. And nowadays, it's even easier, because we have cell phones and texting, perhaps an even lazier way to celebrate our moms. And I think we can all agree that the effort that our mothers put into raising us is worth far more than a 3-second text that reads, "Happy Mother's Day." She will appreciate it no matter what. But I think to honor what Anna Jarvis wanted was for us to take authentic time to recognize what our moms have done for us. And we all have stories and memories. Each one of us can point to several bookmarks in our lives that were directly shaped by our mothers. It might have been in where we chose to go to school, what friends would be good influences upon us, whether we should take that job in another city. But that's the nature of moms. They are there to guide us and shape our lives. And I want to mention as well that a woman need not spawn biological children to be a mom. We have matriarchs everywhere. There are stepmoms, there's sisters out there that have been big influencers. And there are women who wish they could have children, but can't. And even so, they become mothers to many people. Think about school teachers as well. And I say this because my mom was one for 40 years. Every child that teacher educates is her own child in a way, because she is directly responsible for the growth of that child. So all you educators out there, we can never truly measure the influence that you carry in being surrogate moms to your students. And I have to say that in becoming a new father to a boy, there's a certain special relationship that mothers and children have, things that she can provide that I can't. And I suppose that as an only child myself, I can also attest to that. For those of you who have seen the movie Hillbilly Elegy about the life of Vice President J.D. Vance, it's really compelling because J.D.'s mom, a nurse, got strung out on drugs, and his grandmom pretty much had to raise him. His grandmother is played by the incomparable Glenn Close, and I want to play a small clip.
You got to take care of business, you got to go to school, you got to get good grades to even have a chance.
Mom was the best in her class. What's the point?
I'm talking about a chance. You might not make it, but you sure as hell won't if you don't try.
Why do you even care what I do?
I ain't gonna live forever. Who's gonna take care of this family when I'm gone? Oh, I thought your mama was gonna be all right. Be happy, do good. But she got tore up around here. She just up and quit. She just stopped trying. I know. I could have done better. But you got to decide. You want to be somebody or not.
That's so powerful. She says, I'm not going to live forever. She realizes her own mortality and recognizes that she could have done better with JD's mom, and she might have even have done better with her own life and realized that. But now she has another chance to instill ambition in her grandson. And what she says to JD is, he's this poor kid who came from rural parts of Ohio, is that he has to decide if he wants to be somebody. And I think that's really what moms do. They instill life in us because they want us to have better lives than they had. They want us to make better decisions than they did. Fortunately, and you may remember this, JD's mom is 20 years sober, and he acknowledged her at the Republican National Convention when he gave his acceptance speech. And let's face it, JD did become somebody. He decided to go to law school and become a senator, and then now he's our vice president. For a poor kid from Ohio with a mom who was an addict, that's remarkable. And I think most of us have had a mother or grandmother like Mama who realized where she'd made mistakes, but knows that she won't be around forever. And as they say, get busy living or get busy dying. Mama knew that JD would repeat the pattern that so many in that town fell into, a trajectory of poverty and addiction. But instead, she chose to instill in him a desire to be somebody. Our mothers want us to be somebody. We have only one mom. We don't get to choose her. And she'll make mistakes, and we will probably make far more. But the beauty is that they forgive us because they understand us better than anyone else. We were part of them. They carried us for 9 months, give or take. We drained their resources and their bodies. So the least that we can do is listen to them carefully because they only want the best for us. They'd likely give the shirts off their backs if we needed them or if we were cold. So in today's special, I want to honor moms for their contributions in a way that would make Anna Jarvis proud. I will speak to several mothers and matriarchs and get their perspectives on motherhood. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more of this Mother's Day special here on Real America's Voice. Welcome back to the American Matriarch, right here on Real America's Voice.
Welcome back to Real America's Voice and this Mother's Day special. The first mother that I want to feature in today's special is someone I've known for quite a while, and she will be familiar to you not just for her on-screen performances, but her active voice in advocating for parents, parental choice, and even homeschooling. Her name is Sam Sorbo, husband of Kevin Sorbo, and mother to Braden, Shane, and Octavia. Sam, happy Mother's Day to you first and foremost.
You got me glowing because you mentioned my kids.
I did. And I've met Braden. He's the one I think I probably know the best that I've seen at various conferences. But Sam, one time I remember when I interviewed you, it might have been the first time I interviewed you, you paid me one of the biggest compliments I've ever had when you said the reason that I made a great interview is because I was genuinely curious about the person and the subject matter. And once again, that holds true today for this special. So first of all, I've got to know, what does Mother's Day mean to you personally?
Well, sadly, not very much. We never really celebrated Mother's Day. We really never got into it. My mother felt that it was a holiday that was designed to sell cards and flowers and chocolates. Although the first day that I missed Mother's Day, I got a smackdown. She was like, I was expecting something. And so in our family, we don't make a huge deal. I feel like every day is Mother's Day. I am a mother. Therefore, every day is my day.
That's right. It should be.
So we just have fun with it.
Well, Sam, over time, we've seen mothers have to get out of the home and work, some, of course, out of necessity. And you've had to balance your role as a mother with a career as an actress, an author, and a speaker. So what did you do as a mom to ensure that your kids had the Sam Sorbo stamp upon them in their upbringing?
Well, I kept him home from school. That's job number one in my book. And I know that parents work and sometimes they feel like they can't homeschool, but I'm here to tell you, I know working parents who have homeschooled all the way through without a break and worked full time also, because the education of a child is not relegated to just an hour or two a day. And it's also not the 8-hour day that the schools make it. The education of a child is just the being there with the child as much as possible. And so if you're working, you can be gone from the house for 8 hours and come home and still spend time with your child. So to me, that's what home education is all about. It's about that relationship, and I wouldn't sacrifice that for anything. And I almost did. So I know what that's like. And once I realized what I so willingly would have sacrificed had I not just figured that they just weren't doing a good job for my kid in school, I would have foregone this tremendous relationship that I have with my kids, for which I am so tremendously grateful.
Well, you've been a big advocate of homeschooling. You've written a book on it. And knowing that many of our schools, as you just mentioned, have failed our students, I'm sure there's moms out there would homeschool, like you said, if they are able to. And you're saying it's certainly possible to do that. And they're considering it possibly as an option. Tell me the importance to you of what homeschooling is becoming as a better option for moms.
Well, so homeschooling has traditionally sort of been school at home, and I'm trying to get people away from that mindset because school itself has turned into child abuse. So heaven forbid you should do anything that they do in the schools with your kids at home, basically. The idea behind the education of a child is to help the child into wisdom, into discernment, into virtuous character, and all of those great things, so that when the child hits the real world, he is able to make educated and informed decisions for the betterment of his life and for the betterment of others around him. And so if that's your goal with education, then it hardly boils down to the data entry that the schools claim it is. And it certainly doesn't boil down to the indoctrination that the schools have become. So that's the big difference. I go into more details in my book, Parent's Guide to Homeschool, where I pull apart the lies that are in the schools that we've all sort of imbibed over time because we all went K through 12. And so my attempt there is to set parents free from that enslavement to the schools to really embark on the journey of parenting a child into adulthood, which is really what education should be all about.
You mentioned a phrase I really, really liked just then. You said virtuous character. My mom raised me in the church and gave me a solid faith foundation, which I think is really vital in today's society. I'm sure you did the same. So if you could speak about the role that faith plays in being a mother and what it passes on to a child.
Well, I mean, that's the most important thing. And that's the biggest sort of deficit that's in our schools, is that our schools are teaching children that they are accidents of nature and that they have no purpose beyond college prep and career readiness, or what boils down to making money. And I think that that's child abuse, because a child needs to know that he was created in the image of God for a purpose. And especially little boys need to know that they have purpose. Then the purpose is to be a hero. The purpose is to have that goal to become somebody formidable, somebody that has to be reckoned with. And that's what we want for our little boys, particularly. But our little girls, we also want very similar things for them. We want them to know that they have a role to play in our culture, in their families, and in their own lives. And that's the biggest difference. And when you start from a faith perspective, you can't possibly send your child to the secular schools, because the secular schools are telling them the exact opposite for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, or what amounts to 16,000 hours. And that's abuse to a child. And if you keep your child home from the school and forego that horrible indoctrination, and all you do is read the Bible every day for 15, 20 minutes and keep them off electronics, you will have done enough. You will have done so much for them that so far exceeds what the schools can possibly offer them. And if you just teach them how to read and set them free, then they will be the big learners that you hope for them. And they will be able to provide for themselves discernment, because if you give them the classics and you give them good literature, they will be able to start discerning for themselves and asking the big questions. Our children, they want to know how to be adults. And particularly, they want to be their parents. Mm-hmm. And don't disabuse them of that. Lean into that and be that for them, that guide, that navigator, not the teacher so much as the lead learner.
I think about, Sam, when I moved to Los Angeles, just the fact that I had that faith grounding, it gave me a moral beacon, a moral compass. And that, I think, prevented me from falling into the traps that so many others have, whether it was alcohol abuse, drug abuse, whatever it was. It really gave me that grounding, and I think that's so critical. Talk about the unique role that a mother has that's different from a father. I know that mothers have this unique role to play in what they instill and what they fulfill for a child.
Well, so I always go to the image that I have of my husband throwing the children up in the air to land on the bed. He called it dolphin, and that was their big thing, and wrestling. And I'm not a wrestler, and I don't throw kids around. And I'm not much of a games player, but my husband loves games and loves movies and loves that kind of stuff. And so we did play really tremendously different roles in our family. He was always the strong, masculine force in the kids' lives, and I was not. But I have a different relationship with my kids, and for that I'm just extremely grateful.
Sam, you serve on the board of Moms for America. Tell us a little bit about what that group does in terms of its support for mothers and the goals the group has.
Yeah, Moms for America is just a fantastic organization that provides resources for mothers in particular to become the mama bears that their children need. They are empowering moms with tools and information and knowledge that they need. And we've been abused in our schools that we don't know the Constitution. We don't know the Declaration of Independence, really. We don't understand the founding fathers, who, by the way, were all home educated, I just want to say.
That is true.
We don't understand these things because they don't really teach history in the schools anymore. And the history that they teach, the way they teach it, is an abomination. And so Moms for America sort of picks up some of those pieces and puts it back together and hands it to the moms that they serve. And those moms can then go out in the world, and they're not afraid to stand up at school board meetings, and they're not afraid to take on those roles in their community to fight for their kids. And that's what we need. We need people fighting for our kids, because there are evil forces out there that are dead set on having sex with our children. And they even exist in our schools, sadly, but they also exist elsewhere. I saw this morning in the news that there was a second grade classroom that accidentally was shown a pornographic image by their substitute teacher. Mm-hmm. And there were apologies that were made. We don't know how that image got onto the perfectly acceptable, age appropriate thing that she was going to show them. but this pornographic image was shown to them. And the problem is the apology does nothing to mitigate the damage that's already done.
Well, as we close up our time here, Sam, what is your best advice to mothers out there?
To mothers out there, so first of all, my best advice to young women is plan to be a mother. And then when you are a mother, devote your life to it. Because what happens is when you devote yourself in that direction, everything else comes back to you tenfold. Your child is your most important relationship. It's your most important creation in this world. And you should make your child feel that from you. And you will receive tenfold what you put out.
And thank you so much, Sam, for your time and also being a great mom 365 days a year, not just one day. Thank you, Sam.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to you. Coming up, I continue speaking with impressive moms, including one who serves as a member of Congress, making her only the 12th woman to have a child while serving in Congress. We'll be right back with Paulina Luna.
We'll be right back with more of this Mother's Day special here on Real America's Voice.
Before we take you to break, I want to make sure you're aware of an incredible deal Angel Studios is offering right now. And moms, listen up, because today is all about you. This Mother's Day, you can get 40% off the Angel Guild membership, which gives you access to Angel's entire library of streaming content, from Sound of Freedom to Cabrini to Sound of Hope to Solo Mio, plus 2 free tickets to any Angel film in theaters. So if you're watching right now and you can't think of what to get mom other than flowers, this gift will last much longer. And moms, don't be shy about simply telling your family this is something you want. It's really simple. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now or go to angel.com/rav.
Welcome back to the American Matriarch right here on Real America's Voice.
Welcome back to this Mother's Day special. As mothers have to balance both the roles as foremost a mother, but also their careers and ambitions, I thought it would be important to hear from someone who has a very arduous task in her career, and that is as a United States Congresswoman. So not only is she making decisions for her child, she's making decisions for parents all across America when she votes and sponsors various pieces of legislation. For that, I turn to Representative Paulina Luna of Florida's 13th Congressional District, which is one of her titles, but of course, just as importantly, if not most importantly, is her title of Mom to Henry. Thank you so much for being with me, Congresswoman.
Thank you for having me. Very happy to be here.
First of all, what has motherhood meant to you since giving birth to your baby boy?
It's been one of the most incredible things I've done. You always hear from young parents, specifically younger women, that are saying, we're waiting for the right time. They put it off. And I would actually argue that there is never going to be a quote unquote right time. Being a parent brings a way different perspective, and it really gives you a lot to fight for in regards to not just this country, but also to making a better world for future generations. So I would tell people, encouraging young people to have families, not just because we're facing a population decline, but again, it is an eye-opening experience. And if you don't believe in God after you have a kid, you definitely will.
Absolutely. And I can attest to what you're saying, Congresswoman, because I just had a son myself. He's 15 months old. And you're right. I push it off and push it off and push it off. But there is no right time. It will work itself out. And, work-life balance is a very real thing for you. And you brought Henry on the House floor at times. Now, I imagine that when tensions are high on the House floor, Henry probably brings a level of calm and levity, does he not?
Yeah, and it's actually really interesting because you have a lot of members that it's funny. They say that for members like myself that are in our 30s, we're of birthing age, which is really funny to hear that perspective. But again, if you look at the actual age difference that exists, I'm one of the youngest members of Congress, and there's not a lot of young people. And I think that this goes into really how Congress needs to change. A, we need term limits, but B, also getting younger people involved that have skin in the game, have the drive, have the passion, and frankly aren't corrupt. But again, going back to kind of those tension-filled times, having children on the floor does bring temperatures down a little bit. And actually, my husband always tells people that, during a lot of what happened when I was first elected, obviously you remember the speaker's fight with Kevin McCarthy, but there's been other times, especially when we've brought Henry, when other things have happened. So it is kind of interesting. There's a lot of grandparents here on the Hill. And so they see a little baby and they want to hold him.
Of course. Well, how difficult has it been, Congresswoman, to nurse him, to feed him, and to spend time with him, all while you are balancing this role as a member of Congress?
It's definitely time management, but I share a perspective that many working Americans have. And not all people have the luxury of, being stay-at-home parents, which I would encourage if you can. But again, in Washington, D.C., I've gotten commentary, well, why don't you just put your son in childcare? Well, the fact is that, as you know, Congress doesn't have a normal 9 to 5 schedule. In fact, there's many nights that we are doing late night votes. And so my husband will actually travel up here with my son. He comes with us. And that's because I want to make sure that I'm here for those very short years that he's a child. Remember, you're going to know your child for much of their adult life, but there's only a short window and opportunity for childhood. And it's equally important to have the father in the picture as well as the mother. So I always tell people it's kind of funny, but no kidding. My son, a couple of weeks ago, you know how most kids will do high fives, and he can do that too, but he reached his hand out to me and I was like, is he trying to shake my hand? And he does. So he actually shakes hands and he's not even 2 years old yet.
Wow, he's already learning the tricks of the trade.
From seeing mom and dad, yep.
Well, speaking of Congress itself, now I read that you were only the 12th woman to give birth while serving as a member of Congress. And you asked how you could vote after delivering your son, and you were told there were no options to vote by proxy. So you and Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs introduced a bipartisan bill for mothers just like yourself who want to vote but maybe even be dealing with postpartum things like you dealt with, such as preeclampsia. Tell me about this bill and if it's gaining traction within the House.
Well, yeah, so this was introduced, the one with Sarah Jacobs was introduced in the last Congress, and that was specifically just for young women. And at the time, the speaker had actually told me that he would work with us on it. And then, as you saw, he did not. And that's why we did the discharge petition, of which was successful. But I was actually really happy to see President Trump come out in support of young parents, specifically young female members. Remember, it's not all 435 members. And I think the most uninformed, unintelligent argument I saw is that people thought I was just trying to work from home, which was not the case. When you are a member of Congress and you are recovering from childbirth, any woman will tell you after you deliver in the hospital, you're not home right away. And so what I will tell you is up until really a month, the child can't travel either. And then if you do have complications, which many women do experience, there's an issue for actually coming up and physically be present voting. So we actually did it in line with the Constitution. This is not just like willy-nilly vote by proxy, but the irony in all of this, and going back to really, I think a lot of the disingenuous arguments were that, the people that were most vocal against it were the ones that were actually voting by proxy. I never have. And we are still looking for solutions for younger parents. But again, President Trump really weighing in to support this was a huge deal. And as you're seeing, President Trump has been leading this country, not just with the MAHA movement, which is pro-family, but also he has some of the youngest cabinet picks in U.S. history. So J.D. Vance bringing his kids to work, Caroline Leavitt bringing her young son to work, and she's doing an incredible job as our youngest press secretary. And then obviously you're seeing people like myself bringing our kids to the Hill. Yeah,
I think a lot of young women and young mothers will be inspired to see you and Caroline bringing your children on the Hill. I think that's important. It's important for Americans to see real Americans doing exactly what you're talking about. And I also know that you had a tough life growing up in a low-income neighborhood of Southern California with your father spending time in jail and your mom being a single mother. I'm sure there are many single moms out there watching today who may find themselves in that circumstance. So I'd love for you to provide some hope and maybe some advice to those struggling moms who have a tough task.
Yeah, I will say, being a working parent is difficult, but being a single parent is even more difficult. And I have the utmost respect for young single moms and dads, frankly, that are really having to pull the job of both parents providing, and then also to not just being, emotionally guiding and moral support for the child, but also the single soul financial holder on that. And so I am actually looking forward to sponsoring. President Trump, as you know, wants to introduce for every birth of a child, $5,000 back, which I would actually think help incentivize people to have children, but then also to really reinforcing his tax cuts for families. Obviously, he wants to put forward and codify things on childcare. And then also looking forward at really how we can help enable people and encourage people, if they are working, how do you protect them from actually being able to have their jobs when they get back? And so, that federal workers are covered under FMLA. That was something that was largely championed by Ivanka Trump. But for other Fortune 500 companies and publicly traded companies, I'm not trying to force small businesses to pay for maternity leave, but I do think that they should, not just small businesses, but just these publicly traded companies, they should actually hold people's jobs open if they so choose to go on maternity. And so we're talking about that right now. Again, not forcing small businesses to pay for it, but at least enabling and encouraging a pro-family environment to where, if you can save up for it and you can take it, that you should at least be able to have your job when you get back.
Yeah. Well, Congresswoman, women, have a unique role in our society, and because you can help shape the future for mothers and their children, what kind of change do you want to create for them as a legislator?
Well, first and foremost, we've been publicly championing what RFK has been doing since the past Congress. So really before RFK joined the cabinet and really joined the campaign trail with the president, we were actually focused on codifying, removing some of these toxic dyes and additives to our food and health products. We've also been on the forefront on the fight against fluoride, and then also to removing toxic additives from everything from baby products to also focusing on female hygiene products. But it doesn't just stop there. Do you remember that infant formula crisis that happened under Biden and how they recalled all that infant formula?
Yep.
Okay. So I was actually questioning the FDA at the time, and it turned out that they had not been inspecting the facilities due to COVID-19. And as a result of that, there was a toxic bacteria that infected the infant formula. So they recalled the formula after faulty inspection times, which lapsed, which I think the stats were there was a percentage of children that were exposed to this bacteria, infants that would have died. And I do think that those numbers were largely swept under the rug due to COVID-19 misreporting of numbers. But as a result of that, the Biden administration took the formula off the market. Then they're telling parents, don't make your own formula, which was also false. Why would you tell parents not to try to provide for their children? But then, they sent this infected, tainted formula to the border facilities where they were housing migrant children. So I know everyone watching this show, obviously, you know that I'm a border hawk, but I don't think that infected formula needs to be going to children. I don't care if they're, illegals or not. And I think many people would agree with that sentiment. And so being able to provide oversight to the FDA and then holding people accountable, but it's really awful that even happened. I don't like the FDA because of what I've learned and how things work in Washington. And so I am still focusing on codifying that MAHA agenda.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Excellent to hear. And I think you're 100% right. Formula deserves to be free of any sort of bacterial problems, or formula's it's got to be right for our kids. Well, finally, you touched on this earlier about faith, and I know that you've identified as Messianic Jewish before, which is interesting to me because I'm in a movie right now written by Messianic Jews about the life of Jesus.
Really?
So yeah, it's amazing. And so I read about this.
What's it called?
You. It's called Mendel's Messiah. It's about how a Jewish man gets to go back in time and see Jesus in his life and realize that he is the Messiah. So it's written by two Messianic Jews, a couple, and it's a wonderful piece of music and a wonderful film. How important, since you did touch on this earlier, has faith been to you as a mother, and what is it you want to instill in Henry?
Well, my dad raised me as a Messianic Jew, and then my mom raised me Catholic, so I have exposure to both. And what I will tell you is I absolutely believe in God, especially on the whole topic of life and then having children. Obviously, it's pretty clear in the Bible, that perspective. But, it's been interesting, when you believe in God and you kind of just trust in God to follow the process and you look for those quantum breadcrumbs or God winks, as they say. Yeah. If things really do open up, the right doors will open, the wrong ones will be shut. And what I will say is, politics, you're constantly being attacked. And it's interesting, actually, that you bring that up, because when I first got elected to Congress, I was actually in a Washington Post article that tried to take my background and perverted everything I said and try to make me look like a liar. And they actually took the whole Messianic Judaism thing. And I was being called, from one side that, they were obviously making like really nasty comments about Jewish, right? Mm-hmm. And then on another side, you said that people are saying, well, she's not really Jewish, she's a Messianic Jew, which is basically evangelical Christianity. And I would argue that Messianic Judaism is actually what Jesus would have been, and I think the foundation of what Christianity is today. And it really upholds the traditions of what the Torah had, and then also acknowledges Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. But the whole point in that to say in that things happen for a reason. Had that article not come out, then Time Magazine would never have investigated. And as a result, named me Time Magazine's top 100 most influential people in the world, or next 100. And that was because it was a negative. I was under attack. And then I think God used it for good purpose. And the truth is out there. Now people are looking at what Messianic Judaism is. I think there's a resurgence of Christianity. I was actually just in Romania. You know that Romania is an Orthodox Christian country. Mm-hmm. And George Simon, who's going to be the next president, is definitely a believer, and he's projected to win that presidential. So you're seeing this happen all over the world. You're seeing now the new election of a pope. And so I heavily rely on my faith. I've actually done a deep dive into the Ethiopian Orthodox text. I don't know if you know any bit about that, but I will say that Jesus is real. I've been to Israel. I've seen where Jesus was crucified on the cross. And I pray every day. I hope I do the right thing. This is not a long-term plan for me, but I do want to make sure that I get into heaven at the end of the day, so I do the right thing when I'm up here.
Yeah, don't we all? But I think what you said earlier is, and I know this now being a parent, but anyone who sees the birth of a child, I don't see how you couldn't believe in God at that point. It's too miraculous of a thing. And I was worried about it myself. I worried about the blood and everything. I was stellar in the delivery room. I'm so proud of myself about that, because I was like, I can do this. And God gave me that strength. Well, Congresswoman, thank you so much for taking your time to share your thoughts on motherhood, what it means to be a strong working woman in today's society, because I think a lot of women look up to you and need to see that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys should do a special after this on what Messianic Judaism is. I think a lot of people are going to be like, what is that?
Absolutely, and because I'm in a show right now that talks about that, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
We'll be back in touch with you on that one.
Perfect,
Thank you, Congresswoman, appreciate it. And coming up, I speak with a woman who has no biological children of her own, but she's been an influential matriarch in her own right. I'll speak with Palm Beach's own Insta Queen, Suebelle, when we return.
We'll be right back with more of this Mother's Day special here on Real America's Voice. Welcome back to the American Matriarch right here on Real America's Voice.
Welcome back to this Mother's Day special. Another stellar woman I'd like to feature in today's special is Suebelle Robbins. She's been a runway and print model for Talbots and J. Jill. She's been a spokesperson and now is quite the fixture in Palm Beach, Florida. And many of you ladies may have seen her on Instagram with her zesty personality and styling the creme de la creme of Palm Beach. In many ways, she has been a matriarch figure throughout her life, and I think you will enjoy our chat. Well, first of all, Suebelle, thank you so much for inviting me into your home. It's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning here in Palm Beach. And because it is a Mother's Day special, I'd love for you to share some memories of your mother, who no doubt had an impact on your life.
Oh, she did for sure. I guess one of the things that really stands out is my mother was from Rhode Island. She loved Rhode Island. And because of my father's job, she had to live in Texas. She hated Texas. She used to say she was serving her sentence in Texas. And the day school was over, she would put 4 kids and sometimes even a collie dog, and she would drive to Rhode Island or to upstate New York, Oneida, where my father's family was from. And I marvel, that's a pretty long trip. And we would, one of those trips, one of us got the mumps, and we were all licking a lollipop, so everybody got the mumps. And and one time the hood of the car hit the windshield, and we had to spend like 2 days in a little town in Pennsylvania waiting for a new hood or something. She just dealt with everything, and we would move quite a bit. Once we would move, she would find another school system that was a little bit better. Mm-hmm. So we would move to, say, Austin, but when we were in Austin, she would find another school district, and we would move to that suburb. And she always moved by herself. You know, you came home from school and your new house was all set up. And it was just amazing what she accomplished.
Well, I read that she kind of inspired you in an unconventional way, and that she didn't wear makeup or high heels. and that kind of inspired you to have your own sense of individual styles. If you could speak to that.
Women in Texas have big hair, and we love our makeup. And the women, like you'd go to the grocery store and a woman probably would often have a little Chihuahua dog with her and be wearing high heels and makeup. And my mother thought that was just disgusting, where I thought it was fabulous. And I would get upset with her because she was very beautiful, but she was very New England, and she didn't wear makeup or do much with her hair. She had great hair, but she just wasn't a girly girl, and that made me, Texas is filled with girly girls. I guess the South in general, women are a little more feminine.
You know, I read that you taught first grade at St. Agnes in Arlington, Massachusetts. And
yes.
My mom in Memphis, Tennessee was a school teacher for 40 years. And I think, Suebelle, that teachers don't get enough credit for what they deserve for passing on legacies to children, because it's like having their own child, so to speak. If you would describe what your experience was like as a teacher in Massachusetts.
Oh, I just loved it. You would be at your desk, and a kid would come up, and he'd be leaning over, talking to you, and he'd put his arm around your neck, and it was so sweet. And they would, I'm a little bit of an actress, so it was like you had your own audience. They just hung on to every word, and you know, you could have some problems, boyfriend problems, money problems, and the second you got to your classroom, you forgot everything. It was just all about the kids.
Yeah.
And they were hysterical. They made me laugh. It was really fun.
You've been a stepmother too, so even though you haven't had any biological children, you have been a stepmom. I think a lot of people around here and throughout your life have considered you a matriarch in many ways, the matriarch of Palm Beach, due to your style, your charisma, your individuality. So kind of on that same playing field, what would your advice be to women out there who would like to acquire some of the same confidence and style and charisma that you have throughout your entire career?
I guess the bottom line should always be, you are enough, okay? You don't have to please anybody but yourself. And do the half full thing. Your cup isn't half empty, it's half full. And you're gonna work hard and make it to the brim.
Well, Suebelle, to wrap up our interview, I understand that you are going to be writing a memoir. And in fact, as we sit here, your autobiographer is actually sitting in the next room, which I think is so interesting. So I hope you can give us just a glimpse or hint of what you may talk about in this autobiography and memoir.
Just the different experiences I've had from being very insecure and was I good enough, to running up and kissing President Reagan at the White House. You know, I've had ups and downs, and many more ups than downs. And I think it's a mindset. You know, again, half full, and knowing I am enough, and I'm going to be okay.
And what's it been like becoming such a social media sensation over the past several years?
It's been 2 years in April, and I'm a little over 500,000 followers, and I'm still amazed. The one thing people tell me is I'm authentic. So I'm not even really sure what that means, but I just try to be myself.
I think you're just being authentically you, and that's what I've seen today. So Suebelle, thank you so much for your time, your talent, and the authenticity that you bring, and letting everyone out there know, moms, those who are stepmoms, matriarchs, that you are enough. Thank you, Suebelle.
Thank you. I had fun with you.
I did too. Make sure you follow Suebelle on Instagram, where you will be treated to her impeccable style and sense of humor. When we come back, I'll close out today's special with some final thoughts on the importance of Mother's Day and a song I composed specifically for all the moms out there. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more of this Mother's Day special here on Real America's Voice.
Before we take you to break, I want to make sure you're aware of an incredible deal Angel Studios is offering right now. And moms, listen up, because today is all about you. This Mother's Day, you can get 40% off the Angel Guild membership, which gives you access to Angel's entire library of streaming content, from Sound of Freedom to Cabrini to Sound of Hope to Solo Mio, plus 2 free tickets to any Angel film in theaters. So if you're watching right now and you can't think of what to get mom other than flowers, this gift will last much longer. And moms, don't be shy about simply telling your family this is something you want. It's really simple. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now or go to angel.com/Rav.
Welcome back to the American Matriarch, right here on Real America's Voice.
Welcome back to this Mother's Day special on Real America's Voice. Well, you've heard from mothers and matriarchs today about what motherhood means. It doesn't always mean having a biological child. motherhood is far more complex and influential than we can imagine. And because each one of us has a mother, we are all products of those mothers, whether it's in how we speak, how we act, maybe even our sense of humor. They gave us our first breath when they brought us into this world and cried out in pain. They can read us like a book. The truth is, we are going to make mistakes. We will disappoint our moms and likely hurt their feelings in ways they won't even let on. But there's nothing we could do that would separate their love for us. It is truly unconditional. We've all had scraped knees, and they've been right there to console us. When we went through that bad breakup or divorce, their mom was to listen to us and offer us advice. Many moms have opened up their homes again to us after college or in between jobs, because even though they know we are adults, they also don't want to see us hurt. And they know what we need sometimes to get us up back on our feet again. They saw us off on our first day of school, and you know your mom was crying because her child was growing up. But at the same time, they were tears of joy because she knows she has molded you and wants you to become independent. And the moms out there watching, I'm sure will attest to this when I say that they wait by their phones for their kids to call, whether they are freshmen in college or in their 50s. They love hearing from you. And all these things are really the basis for a song I recently wrote for this special that encompass my thoughts. Because moms are exactly what you'll need, even if you think you don't. They'll be the hand to hold, even if we think we won't need it. Moms are the answer to our prayers, and God gave us just this one. She's certainly not like any other. She's your mother. That was the chorus that I came up with, and the best representation I felt could sum up what mothers are to us. And in the last chorus, I sing that there will come a day when we need to hold her hand the way she held ours, even when we think we won't ever have to do that. Those who have had to help their elderly mothers or those with Alzheimer's or Parkinson's know exactly what I'm talking about. I watched my mom care for my grandmother who had dementia, and you never think that you will have to care for the person who once cared for you. But all over this country and all over this world, this scenario is happening. So I also want to recognize the children who are taking care of their mothers and grandmothers, or even great-grandmothers. They deserve the care that they once gave you. And if they are in a nursing home, make sure you pay them visits often. So to close out this special, I want to premiere this song that I wrote, and I hope that it means as much to you as it did to me in composing it. For me, music is a way of putting my thoughts into one succinct place. And if you enjoy it, I hope you will share it with your own mothers today, and if it touches you, and help celebrate your mom today. So with that, here is my song, She's My Mother.
There's a woman out there who gave you your first breath. She carried you for months and she loves you to death. There's not one single thing that could separate her love, even when you make mistakes. Of you she's most proud of. She's exactly what you'll need, even if you think you don't. She'll be the hand to hold, even when you think you won't. She's the answer to your prayers, and God gave you one. She's not like any other. She's my mother. She sent you off to school on your very first day. She cried tears of joy and she wiped your tears away. And when you scraped your knee or when your heart got broke, she was always there to help you get back up. She's exactly what you'll need, even if you think you don't. She'll be the hand to hold, even when you think you won't. She's the answer to your prayers, and you've got only one, and you'll never have another. She's my mother. She waits for you to call as the days pass on by, but not a day goes by she don't think about her child. Other people know her by the name she's had all wants to hear is when you call her mom. She's exactly what you'll need, even if you think you don't. You'll need to hold her hand, even when you think you won't. She's the answer to your prayers. Thank God you've got this one, and you'll never have another. She's my mother.
I want to thank you all for watching this Mother's Day special about the cherished American matriarch. The song you just heard is one that I wrote specifically for this special, which is called She's My Mother, from personal experience about my mom. But I also hope that it exemplifies how you think about your own mother. This song is available for download on iTunes and Apple Music by scanning the QR code that you see on your screen right now. I've always thought that the gift of music is special and unique because it's eternal, and you can always share it with someone else to pay it forward. And because this song is brand new, very few have heard it. So you could give something truly original to your mom as a Mother's Day gift. And here's something even better. Just like you saw the montage of all the moms while the song played, you could take the downloaded song and make your own video montage of you and your mom, using something really simple like the Photos app on your iPhone. And this is how easy it is. Find or create a photo album of you and your mom on your iPhone and click the play button. You'll now see it as a slideshow. At the bottom, there's a music note icon with a plus. Click it and you'll have all your music options to choose from. Click Browse and then search for your newly downloaded song, She's My Mother. And voila, there you have it, a video album of you and mom with the brand new song. The download of the song itself is just 99 cents. So I hope you all will be creative this year and give a gift that mom will love and treasure for years to come. And we want to see how creative you are with this. So make sure to post your videos with the song and tag Real America's Voice so that we can feature it. Happy Mother's Day.